Sanzu is the second time leaper, and here's why. If you haven't seen my channel before, hi, my name is Nasu, and this is my third video talking about the second time leaper in Tokyo Revengers. With Mikey and Hanma having their own part, I thought it was only right to give Mikey's right hand man a video as well. And trust me, when I say that you will be convinced that Sanzu is the second time leaper after watching this video. Quickly before we begin, I have to give credit to the one who wrote this theory, so links to them is in the description. Anyway, the theory begins in chapter 127, where Takemichi expresses to Shifuyu that someone could be altering the future at the same time that he is, which explains why he never gets the outcome that he expects when he goes back to the present day. It was suggested by Takemichi that Kisaki could be a possible time leaper, but later on the story we know that it isn't true. Kisaki's death and his denial of being the second time leaper, that is. Sanzu has known Mikey since they were kids. We saw Shinjiro and Takaomi hanging out and their siblings who would also get along, making Sanzu, Mikey, Bunji and Senju all childhood friends. First, let's answer the question, why would Sanzu time leap? To put it in a simple form, Sanzu strives to help Mikey reach the top and become the strongest leader in all of Tokyo. He knows Mikey's potential as a leader and the strength he produces. He carries out Mikey's wishes to rule over Tokyo gangs. Mikey warns Takemichi to stay away from him because of his dark impulses and the person he will most likely become. He pushes away everyone and makes it clear by stating, "I chose this path," in the boat and timeline. Mikey keeps the promise he made that he would keep everyone safe. Mikey made all of this possible by taking a dark road in life and went to great lengths to protect his friends. By sacrificing his own happiness, he made sure everyone around him stayed away. Draken tells Takemichi he made us despise him. To make all of this possible, he had a time leaper by his side, not Takemichi, but Sanzu. Sanzu's real name, Haruchiyo Sanzu, is an infamously nicknamed the Loyal Mad Dog. Sanzu believes that Mikey is king, and he is prepared to protect Mikey and his title. In that same chapter, he goes so far to fight the gang on his own simply because they were bad-mouthing Toman. Sanzu was under Yaosu Moto's, or Mucho's, 5th division, which was to sniff out any traitors in Toman, and they could be punished without Mikey knowing. Ironically, during this scene, we find out that Mucho is actually a traitor since he signed with Isana by being a member of the S62 generation. This is the reason that Sanzu later goes on to kill Mucho after he is released from jail. I believe that Sanzu was placed under this division for a reason, and I don't think there is a coincidence that Sanzu was under Mucho, so we get to see that Sanzu hates traitors. My second section will discuss Sanzu and his face mask. Sanzu is given a face mask by Mucho to hide his scars that eventually conceals his identity. Sanzu has kept his face mask on all the way up until he kills Mucho. By removing his mask, he's now breaking down his own walls and becoming more of a maniac and expressive kind of guy. We see his personality really peaking in the Boten timeline, and they even have risen the ranks to become Boten's number 2, the closest to Mikey. Section 3. Sanzu also states that he is an only child, even though that's far from the truth. He has 2 siblings that he left behind. So why would he call himself a only child? Why would he change his name and disown his family for someone like Mikey and a gang? We see in chapter 241 that he was upset with both of his siblings for being too hard on him, but I don't think that this is a good and clear reason to disown his family. Sanzu is also shown telling Mucho that Bunji is Mikey's childhood friend, not telling the whole truth that he is also their childhood friend. He keeps what he knows and doesn't reveal too much about himself, clearly distancing himself from people. During Bunji's death in episode 22, Sanzu has an expressionless face. Maybe he didn't show sadness or simply didn't care enough. But you would think that he showed some kind of emotion when he saw his childhood friend die, unless he already knew about his death. Section 4. In every future timeline, both with him and without Kisaki, Mikey is successful. He's at the top with both power and control over Tokyo gangs. He did die 2 times in the future. Once was when Naoto shot him when Mikey snuck off to the Philippines to meet with Takemichi. The second time was when Mikey was about to jump off a building and fall to his death. In chapter 118, after the Black Dragons arc, Mikey has supposedly killed all of his friends, and even Kisaki is marked as dead, even though we know he isn't and he's actually been working with Isana. Mikey was accused of killing all of his friends, but Taiju says, expose the truth behind Hakai's death. I don't believe that Sanzu really did it. If he didn't do the killings, we assume that Kisaki and Isana did, but the killings are extremely brutal that it's hard to believe that Kisaki would waste his time on these killings. But there are backstory images of Mikey killing Hakai and Shifuyu. Mikey's outfit looks very similar to Sanzu's outfit choices. Sanzu would have for sure came up with gruesome and insane deaths as we see him go off the rails. Section 5. Teniki was clearly unsuccessful in terms of Kisaki's plan to have him at the top of the pyramid and use Mikey as a puppet. Teniki's outcome from the Yokohama fight would benefit Sanzu even if they had won or lost. If Teniki lost, lost, which they did, the timeline was Bonten. Sanzu would reach the number 2 and remain by Mikey's side. However, if Teniko won, Sanzu would be choosing the winning side and Mikey would still rule over Tokyo. Assuming that this person in the panel below is Sanzu, we can assume that he had tailed Takemichi to the bowling alley. And also, it's weird that the mouth is covered where Sanzu's scars would be. Hanma was also a fugitive at this time. Section 6. Presumably the most important. Why would Mikey be so comfortable talking about the future in front of Sanzu? Mikey has zero reason to tell Sanzu about Takemichi's time leaping, unless he knows about Sanzu being a time leaper as well. Sanzu is also talking about the past, especially since he hardly even knew Takemichi back then. He seems super familiar with him and comfortable with how he talks about time. So we start to ask ourselves, was Mikey really the trigger for the last time leap? Naoto didn't work as a trigger for the final time skip, and he said that he thinks it's because he's already a good future, and both of him and Hina are alive. If Sanzu is the second time leaper, he could have triggered the time leap in chapter 204 after he sees Mikey jumping to his death. He sees Mikey attempting suicide and Takemichi is able to catch him, but afterwards, Sanzu disappears. Maybe he touched Takemichi and triggered the time skip or used his own trigger. Section 7. The popsicle panels. I don't know how to explain this in proper words, but I hope this photo below can speak for themselves. By Sanzu killing Senju, he's taking one of Mikey's rivals/enemies out of the picture. Sanzu has probably seen a timeline in which Senju attempts to take Mikey's life. In chapter 230, Senju says that she wants to fight Mikey. We could assume it's because he's the strongest in Tokyo, or it's a grudge against him for what he did to her brother when they were kids. Also, chapter 253 really supports the fact that Sanzu and Hanma could be working together. Hanma sits down at Kisaki's grave and tells him, "Let's talk, Kisaki," about the Reaper and the Period. Period is another term for clown, and it's implied that Kisaki is the clown and Hanma is the Reaper. Hanma calls the word a circus. Sanzu's scars resembles those as a Joker, who could be a clown as well. So with all my points laid out, I have one question for you. Do you think that Sanzu is the second time leaper or not? Personally, I feel like there's a lot of things connecting Sanzu to be the second time leaper, and I also think that it fits his characters really well. But I would love to hear what you think about it down in the comments. Now, I have no idea how to end a video properly, so I guess we will just end it right here. I'm sorry, but I'm suck at ending the videos. But before that, if you have liked this video, please subscribe and like this video, because it really helps out my channel a ton. Anyway, it's my boy Natsu and I'm gonna sign out, so bye.